where the defence has been mastered by Thomas Tuchel. Phase one of Thomas Tuchel has been making Chelsea defensively sound, defensively structured. We can play against a variety of opposition, no matter what they try and do against us, and we seem pretty set. I think there is a price to pay with that in relation to our attacking intent maybe within a game, of being a little bit cautious, asking that midfield two, especially Jorginho, to sit back. But that back three, especially Rudiger, had one of his best performances for Chelsea all round. I think he was flawless yesterday. Christensen looking so good once again. Edouard Mendy, for me, probably signing of the season, because I know we'd go to Thiago Silva, but I think in terms of value for money, and this comes back to another discussion about Chelsea spending lots on players that don't really turn out to be great signings, but actually the lower cost signings actually be better value for money. For me, Mendy has been brilliant this season. He really has. So it's a 50-50 split for me, isn't it? And I think that's the issue Tuchel has had so far. You can't really trust this team to score a lot of goals. We haven't scored more than 2 goals in a game under Thomas Tuchel so far. Really, you think at the moment it's going to be 1 goal at best. That's sort of the natural flow of games. When you have that, it's very difficult to... This team isn't creating bundles of chances, and it isn't clinical enough in front of goal as well. So you sort of are relying on fine margins, and when those margins don't come together, when we aren't really taking more opportunities, that's my frustration with set pieces. When it isn't clicking, I think we should be making more of the set piece opportunities, because we now have Mason Mount, who's brilliant at deliveries this season. I think Ben Chilwell actually earlier in the season was a good person to have in corners as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's putting in some good deliveries. So on that front, I think that's where I see the game. I think that Chelsea could have done more, but no, it's not an awful result by any stretch of the imagination. And I think defensively, that's where I'm looking at and going, okay, now there's a solid run there of games where I can look at that defence and say, that's very impressive. Also, N'Golo Kante is back to his best.
I was listening to Tuchel's press conference saying, what about when Thiago comes back? What happens to the defence then? And I think it might be Aspi that drops out of that back three. I really do, because I think you could make a very, very strong case for Rudiger being the most improved player under Tuchel. I don't think I would say he is. I think Christensen is. Rudiger's second. But Tuchel fundamentally believes that Christensen's good in a back two and he's good in a back three, and he also believes that Thiago is the best in the middle of that back three. Aspi was fine, but I thought, just for the experience and the professionalism that he normally carries, I was slightly underwhelmed with him yesterday. Just a few misplaced passes, just a bit of bad communication. I know it's minor, but from a player that's played over 400 games and is the club captain, and it's those experienced players on the pitch, that they should be doing those things without making mistakes, because it's those fine margins that I think get you a goal. And I think Christensen was brilliant. I thought Rudiger was utterly outstanding. And that's something I have not said in a long time, since Sarri days, probably since maybe Conte actually, or since he scored 2 headers against Leicester. But even then, I didn't think his performance was that great. So I think it's Aspi that might drop out, because I don't think Aspi plays as a wing back. Do you know what I mean?
I think we lacked something on that right side. There was a few times in the first half where Chelsea were causing problems for Alioski, who I think we could have caused more problems. I think the issue we had was that I wanted someone overlapping with Pulisic there. And Dave is quite clearly not doing it because he doesn't have the legs to do it. And I just think offensively we could have had more there. I mean, if you had Reece as a right centre-back, maybe you could have had that situation, because Reece does have the legs. I also think Christensen on that right side of a back three, I think one of his strengths is he's deceptively quick, and I've seen him several times in his career go out to that right side and be able to match people for pace and be able to make the intelligent tackles, like really up to the touchline, and force attackers with pace to the touchline and force it out of play, or get the ball back. I think that's a strong part of his game. So yeah, I think that Christensen maybe merits it a lot more than Dave, simply for the fact that I think that he's done so well. And as well, passing, you think passing from deep is such a big part of this team's game. And if you could have Rudiger, Christensen and Thiago Silva as the back three, you've got you've probably got the 3 best passes in defence for us in the same team. So that's probably why he would. And you think maybe Christensen on that side could maybe with his right foot curl a few balls round to whoever's playing on that right side a bit more, because I still think we lack that a lot. I think the passing from deep could be a little bit better, and maybe with someone with the vision of Christensen could do that on the right side, and also back his mobility and quickness to deal with wide attackers more than I do Dave.
The freakish disrespect towards a back three that I see on a daily, I don't get it, man. I just don't understand it. I think a free back is perfectly okay to win the league as long as you can just work it out. Tuchel's had 11 games or whatever it is with the team. That's not a long time, really, for a football manager to implement a long-term plan. Long-term, I know it doesn't really exist with Chelsea, but a plan. I think a back three's totally fine. I really genuinely do. I understand it might not offer you the most beautiful football, but when done correctly, back threes can win you the league. Look at Inter Milan currently this season, top of the Serie A. They're going to win the league. They play back three. Last time Chelsea won the Prem, back three. It's not unheard of. It's not. I understand the arguments that back fours, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 could be more effective sometimes, but I don't really understand the lack of support back three gets, because when done correctly, you get goals.
I think for me, and this ties very much into the last question, Travis. So it sort of goes in the same direction. Are the inconsistencies and issues in attack more down to the system being used, or simply the limitations of players? See, I think the issue currently is, as I say, phase one. I'm not sort of saying that the 4-3-3, I'm not wedded to one formation. And Tuchel said this brilliantly pre-Atletico in an interview he did with Rio Ferdinand, where he was like, it's not about the formation, it's about the principles and what I give to these players, that we can play in any formation and I trust them in any formation. I like that way of thinking. It's a very Pep Guardiola way of thinking. I think when I looked at the average positions yesterday, the issue was you had the three at the back, and then you had two in midfield in that first half, Kante and Jorginho, and that's the way the double sixes sort of work so far. It's mainly, especially Jorginho, doesn't really move out of his position, I think, cautiously. And it looked like a cluster of four players in attack, and we've seen this actually consistently under Tuchel, a cluster of four players. Callum Hudson-Odoi at times, if he's a right wing back, is the furthest player forward. Yesterday it was Pulisic. Then you saw Kai, Ziyech and Mount. Chilwell was a little bit further forward, not as high as Pulisic was. I quite like that idea, but I just think we've had this discussion before. It's, can he get this group of attackers to click in some sort of way and start being more productive? It's not about the three-back system for me. It's about the way Chelsea are going about their business at the moment that isn't sustainable for a Premier League title. It's at some point, Tuchel, as he's shown already, has to be a bit more proactive, I think, in the way maybe take a few more risks. And that may come from the summer, some acquisitions, especially in defensive midfield, because I think he's been quite smart in the three central midfielders, senior central midfielders he has, because there's never really been a perfect solution. So he's probably thought to himself, just by my assumption, I think he's looked at it and gone, Jorginho, I'm not allowing you to press up high. I'm not going to get us exposed in transition. We haven't been exposed in transition. We know what Jorginho gives you in terms of passing. Kante's got back to his best too. But I currently think, unless the attacking quartet or the attacking trio, whatever it is, finds some sort of form and fluidity, I think he may have to be forced to be a little bit more daring sometimes in games. We may start with a three and we may revert to a back four